ability to take those opportunities and share it, not just with us here in our community, but he's getting ready. He was invited to do a TED Talk, and if anyone knows anything about the format of TED Talks, you send in your presentation, they interview you several times, you go through several different iterations, and then they say, yes, we'd like for you to come here and do a TED Talk or not. And he had an opportunity to do this interview on a Friday and got a call on Monday, says, we want you here in February. So he will give his first TED Talk in February. But more importantly, Jeff has been a leadership coach, and he has worked with the Fortune 50 companies across the nation. He has been providing motivation and encouragement and just strength and words and motivation and how to be the leader that we need to be in not just our workplace, but with our family and with our community. And I had the opportunity, so I had a chair who I just absolutely adored from Creighton University as I was going through my dissertation, Dr. Jeff Miller. And Dr. Jeff Miller called me in November and he says, Brenda, I met somebody that you have got to meet. And that is Jeff Harmon. And he told Jeff, you've got to meet Brenda. Our passion was aligned both with trying to do what we can to share the challenges that we've overcome in life in order to get back to the community. I am thrilled to say that what he gives today is a preview to his TED Talk coming in February. And he just wanted to come and bless our community, and I'm so thankful that you did, Jeff.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you to close your eyes and think about the word resilience. What comes to mind? You can just shout out. What comes to mind when you think about the word resilience?
Opportunity.
Strength, opportunity,
Bounce back.
survivor, bounce back, longevity, persistence, recovery. Thank you. Patience. Now, I'm going to ask you a different type of question. What does resilience feel like? You can open your eyes. What does resilience feel like? Not the definition of it, the experience of it. When life presses in, what does resilience feel like in your body? Does it feel like this? Your jaw clenched, just pushing through another day? Does it feel like forcing a smile when a situation is just bearing down on you and you're crumbling under its weight? Or maybe it looks like your mind, or it feels like your mind racing, facing a situation, desperate to make it through. In the face of hard things, the world calls on us for what looks like strength. And oftentimes in our leadership, we're rewarded for that version of strength. And over time, that version of resilience or strength leaves us tight, reactive, and a little less available to those that are around us. I know this because after a neurological diagnosis in 2006 that changed my body and my future, I became very good at looking resilient. I was diagnosed in my 30s, and in my 40s I transitioned to life in this wheelchair. And it wasn't just a physical change, it was a change that demanded something different from me. And so I did what strong people are expected to do. And slowly, I became less free. Not just for me, but for those that I was called to lead and those that mattered most in my life. You see, resilience isn't something that we summon in the face of hard things. It's what we practice when there's nowhere else to hide. And I didn't learn this in a book. I learned this at 19,000 feet on the roof of Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro. So let me take you on the mountain. Actually, I'm going to take you to the third day. Kibo Hut. This is base camp. the last stop before we take on the summit. And when the sun goes down, it is very dark and it is very cold. And by this time, again, remember this is day 3, by this time my team is carried, pushed, pulled, fought next to me for 3 straight days. And as I lay in my bunk, layered up to the nines, because it was about 35 degrees in our hut, I was laying there in my sleeping bag, and I wasn't picturing the summit. I was desperately asking just one question. Can I do it? Can I do it? The thing is, that question wasn't about the mountain. It wasn't about what we were about to do the next day. It was about, can I look strong? Can I still hold up this image of strength that I had been living by almost my entire life? There was a time when almost every room that I went into, I brought this low hum of tension into the room. And my wife and my girls never quite knew which version of me they were going to get. One time, after I had been traveling a few days, I came home and my wife said to me, with kind of a flat look on her face, she said, "I'm glad you're home, but I am not glad for the stress that you bring into the house." Oh, that landed so deeply, and I realized something so unsettling, that the way that I was surviving pressure, surviving my life in this wheelchair, and how I lived, how I showed up, was slowly turning me into someone that the people who mattered most had to protect themselves from. And let's be honest, all of us, this shows up, this version of resilience, this way of being shows up in our leadership and in all the places that we find ourselves. When people, they don't fully relax around us, when conversations become just a little bit more careful, or that when people don't quite tell us the truth. And the sad thing is, few people call that out. They simply adjust. And I want to spend a moment here before we go back on the mountain and pause, because this matters so deeply to me. Because as leaders, wherever you're leading, whether you're leading you in your family, whether you're leading a team, whether you're leading a business, a company, an organization, wherever you're leading, the most important thing you give to your people is not the strategy, or not decisions, not a bold vision. They're you. They're me. We are the most important thing that we bring to our people and that we give to them. And especially the people that we become in the face of hard things. Long after meetings are over, long after plans change, people live in the environment that we create. And so when resilience is built on control and performance, people tighten up. Even when that way we show up looks responsible, and it looked so responsible for me, I was doing the right thing. But even when it looks responsible, showing up that way as a resilient person, it teaches people how to survive. But when resilience is practiced through honesty, humility, and staying present with people, it creates what's called psychological safety. And people can bring their best. And so we are doing this every day. We are shaping people every day. And here's what the mountain taught me. There are 2 kinds of resilience. There's one that looks good, that's performing strength, and that we're praised for. And then there's a second one that's wiser, steadier, where we're not performing strength, and our people can feel the difference. So what I learned on the mountain about this happened when my plans fell apart. So day 1 on Kilimanjaro, It went beautifully. So I had built a team of 32 people, and we had porters from Tanzania that supported us, and the plans were perfect. Seamless rotation on and off the chair. You'll see a video at the end of my talk about what that looks like. And everything went to plan. Even one of my team members came up to me at the end of day one. He says, "We're going to kick Kilimanjaro's butt." Because we had trained hard. Day two, everything changed. The bolts on the two front caster wheels had sheared off, and the wheels fell off the chair. Thankfully, we had spares, but it shook us to the core. And then around 3 o'clock, my team, this brilliant team of 32 people that had been working so hard, that had trained so hard, were just moving too slow over the rocky terrain of this leg of the climb. And they had to come off the chair. And the Tanzanian porters that were with us, they stepped in and they took over moving the chair up the mountain. This wasn't strategy. This was necessity. And so sitting there watching virtual strangers carry on what I could no longer manage, I had to make a choice. I could pretend that it was still the climb that we had trained for and that we had planned for. Or I could tell the truth. That this was the climb now. Not later, not when we got back on plan, now. See, the thing is, resilience doesn't begin by just pushing forward no matter what. It begins when we practice telling the truth about where we actually are. By day 3, we were at 12,000 feet and we were above the clouds. It was almost heavenly. But you know what? The disappointment of the prior day didn't go away. We still felt very shaken by everything that had transpired. And around midday, we stopped and took a break. And I looked up. That's me on day 3. We stopped. I looked up at the peak of Kilimanjaro. It's called Kibo Peak. And I looked at it not as something to conquer, but as something just to be with. I was in awe. If I could say boldly, I was in awe of the glory of God, the majesty. And for the first time on our climb, I felt small in the best possible way. I didn't feel like I needed to be the center of the story anymore. And something softened inside me. It was gratitude. Gratitude has a way of giving us perspective. It doesn't erase frustration. It doesn't erase grief, disappointment, but it puts it in perspective. And that's where the practice of resilience starts to grow, in the heart and the seeds of resilience. So summit night, day 4. We started the summit push at 4:30 in the morning. Because we were at Kibo Peak, remember that base camp? It was below freezing. It was around 25 degrees. And we moved through volcanic ash as thick as any beach sand you have ever walked in. Think about maybe you've been on the Gulf of Mexico, down in Galveston, or in Florida in the Panhandle. That thick beach sand, that's as thick as this volcanic ash was that we had to move my wheelchair through. Before the mountain, I thought resilience was about something that we did. We push, we endure, we hold our ground. And I thought if I stayed strong long enough, that we'd just get the outcome that we had planned for and that we had hoped for. But the mountain, Kilimanjaro, it stripped away that illusion. Resilience is not what we perform under pressure. Resilience is a practice when pressure removes all of our options. It's a practice. Remember that word. Resilience is a practice. So the end of summit day, after about 13 hours, we reached 2 of Kilimanjaro's 3 summit points, Gilman's and Stella Point. It was celebration and it was relief. By around 4:30, just a little while later, about 90 minutes later, the sun was starting to go down. We could see it coming down through the clouds that were there. Food and water with the team that was with me, about 7 of them, of our 32 were with me. Food and water were dwindling. And we paused to take a short break, just to assess what was happening. And in that moment, I decided to turn around and begin our descent. We didn't get to Yahuo Peak, the 3rd summit point, the highest point in Africa. Years ago, the reality of that would have shattered me. But sitting there that day, I wasn't asking, did I do enough? I was asking, what's true? Turning back wasn't forced. No one forced me to do it. If I would have said, we're going to keep going, the team I was with would have kept going. So the decision wasn't forced. It was a choice that it didn't make me weaker. And it was the clearest leadership decision that I had made on the mountain that day. Actually, it was the clearest leadership decision that I have probably made in the last 20 years. It wasn't driven by fear or pride. It was driven by clarity. It was driven by truth. But that clarity didn't come in that moment. The clarity came back at Kibo Hut. Remember, I was telling you I was laying in bed and I was wondering if I could do it. And I looked around. In my particular room, there were 11 other team members. In rooms nearby, there were 22 others. And I thought about a group of kids. Just a week earlier, before we went to the mountain, I was invited to speak to a group of high school kids with special needs. And they asked me in that talk, how do I do things when they feel impossible? And I remembered what I told them. So quietly, laying there in my bunk, freezing cold, layered up to the nines, I laid there and I did what I told them to do. I took my hand quietly to myself and I said, I can do it. I can do it. And I want to leave you with this very small, almost insignificant practice to the outside. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic. This is a practice that keeps pressure from quietly hardening us and shaping our leadership in ways that we never intended to. So would you stand with me? So take one of your hands and tap your fingers and say the words that I said to myself that night. I can do it. Let's do it again. I can do it. One more time. I can do it. We say those words together not as confidence, not as certainty, but as courage. Because resilience is not a moment, it's a practice. I'm feeling emotion in this moment because I'm so passionate about what this all means. It's about this community that came together to do this crazy, epic, iconic thing. And we did it.
So I just think about last night's sleep. I couldn't sleep. I was feeling very concerned about the day in the middle of the night. I was very grateful as I went to breakfast and everybody said.
You can sit down if you like.
It was a very exciting beginning to the day, and very quickly, as we were finishing the rainforest, we could see that this was going to be some of the most challenging terrain that we had ever faced. It wasn't the terrain itself, it was relentless. It just went on and on and on.
All right. Hey, Luke. Thank you. Okay, that's great. I'll carry it with me now. I'm good. Oh.
Yeah. Almost everybody we talk to back home can't believe that we're doing it. You cannot believe it, you know.
Oh, I just said I'm feeling frustrated. You know, we train so hard and we want to help, but this is hard. It's really hard.
But finally, around 3 o'clock, we made it to Billman's Point, and it was a massive celebration.
Our team is from all over the country, from all different walks of life and backgrounds, everything else. None of that matters when you're in the middle of a mission that has so much purpose and joy and service and community and family around it.
And Jeff has inspired me to find my possible, because I thought it was always impossible for me to do things like this as a caregiver.
So when I looked at Mount Kilimanjaro, I knew it was impossible. There was no way that I could do that. But with amazing community and the right people around me, it was absolutely possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.